Hello, students. How are you all? I hope you are doing well. I welcome you again to your English class. Sometimes we follow superstitious beliefs, even though we know that this is not the ideal path to follow. Yet, we have certain beliefs which are strong within us, and we follow them. Today's story is about the same situation which the Baxter's family faced. Let's read the story. The name of the story is This is Jodie's Fawn, written by Marjorie Kennan Rawlings. This chapter basically talks about two contrasting nature or attitude of Baxter family towards animals. First, let me give the introduction for the topic. The story, This is Jodie's Fawn, revolves around the theme of humans living in harmony with nature. In the story, Jodie's father has been bitten by a rattlesnake. He quickly kills a doe and uses its heart and liver to draw out the poison. Jodie wonders what will happen to the little fawn left without a mother. The primary theme of this story is loneliness and guilt. Jody wished to save his father and so he killed the doe. However, to save himself from the feeling of guilt, he saved the fawn. The fawn and Jody developed a relationship, and it is around this kinship between man and animal that this story revolves. Also, we see that love and compassion are necessities without which humanity cannot survive. True compassion means not only feeling others' pain, but also being moved to help relieve it. Before starting our session, let me give you a brief about the author first. Marjorie Kennan Rawlings, 1896 to 1953. She was born on 8 August 1896 in Washington, D.C. She was an American author who lived in rural Florida. Her best known work, The Yearling, which won Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1939. It was later made into a movie, and she died on 14th December 1953 in Florida. Have a look about the characters in this story. First, Jody. He is a small young boy. He felt bad for Fawn, which is alone in the forest without his mother. Next, Penny Baxter, father of Jody. He was bitten by a rattlesnake in his hand. He killed doe and used its heart and liver to cure himself. He allowed his son, Jody, to bring the fawn back home and raise it. Next, Ma Baxter, mother of Jody. She also agreed to bring the fawn at house and raise it. Next, Millville and Dr. Wilson Forrester, who helped Jody in finding fawn in the forest. This chapter contains three parts. So the initial part of the story tells us that Baxter family had killed a deer to save Penny Baxter's life. But after that incident, they realized how bad or how insensitive they had been to that animal. So, in contrast to the previous action, they wanted to be grateful to the animal whose life they had taken, and therefore they showed a very kind concern to the fawn which was left behind. So, it is a very touching story and a beautiful message which gives. First, let me give you the summary for this story. Part 1, Introduction. Jody's father, Penny, was bitten by a rattlesnake. He quickly killed a doe. Then he used the doe's heart and liver to draw out the poison. Jody saw that the doe's baby, a little fawn, was left alone. Jody talks to Penny. The thought of fawn kept on haunting Jody's mind. He quietly went to his father's bedside. He asked him how he was feeling. Then he asked him to think about the fawn. He asked him to permit him to bring the fawn home. Jody wanted to raise him. Penny gives his permission, At first, Penny was in a dilemma. Jody argued that raising the fawn would not be a burden. Fawn could drink Jody's milk until he started eating leaves and acorns. Jody also said that his family was responsible for the fawn's plight. Penny agreed that it would be ungrateful to leave the fawn to starve. So he gave Jody his permission. He asked him to tell his mother about it before going to bring the fawn in. Next, Jody talks to his mother. Jody came to the table and sat down very quietly. The mother was pouring coffee in the cups. She was taken aback when Jody talked of bringing the fawn home. Seeing the mother reluctant, Jody told what his father had said. He said that Penny had said it would be ungrateful to leave the fawn to starve. Dr. Wilson and Melville helped Jody before the mother could say anything. Dr. Wilson spoke. He told Jody's mother that nothing in the world comes quite free. He meant that they must pay some price for having taken the life of Doe. Here the price was to raise the fawn. Melville chipped in. He offered to take Jody on his horse to the forest. The mother felt helpless. She only told Jody that he could give the fawn his milk. She would not give him anything else to feed the fawn. Next, Jody goes with Melville. Melville mounted his horse. He sat Jody behind him on the horse. Jody assured his mother, Ma Baxter, that he would be back before dinner. Now Melville asked Jody how he knew that the fawn was male. Jody said that the spots on the fawn were all in a line. This indicated that the fawn was male. Part 2. Jody wants to be alone. Once in the forest, Jody wanted Melville to go back. He wanted to be alone with the fawn. There were two reasons. First, it was possible that Jody might not get the fawn, for the fawn might have died or be not found. In that case, he would not like Melville to see his disappointment. Secondly, if he met the fawn, the meeting would be very lovely and secret. He would not like to share it with anyone else. Melville is sent back. So Jody asked Melville to go. He said that the scrub was too thick for the horse to get through. Melville was, however, afraid to leave Jody alone. He said that Jody could be lost in the forest or bitten by the snake. Jody, however, said Melville did not have to worry. He could be careful. So Melville went back. Part 3. Jody finds the fawn. After a while, Jody came to the carcass of the doe. The fawn was not found nearby. He tried to look for the small hoof prints, but in vain. Then there was some movement directly in front of him. Jody was overjoyed to see his fawn. It was shaky, but it didn't try to rise or run. Next, Jody picks the fawn. Jody laid his hand on the fawn's soft neck. He was very happy to feel it. Jody lifted the fawn from the grass very softly. He feared that the sight of its mother's carcass might agitate this fawn. So he avoided the clearing and went through the bushes. It was a difficult walk. He was carrying the fawn in his arms. Next, Jody brings the fawn home. It was a long walk. He reached the trail. Then he came to the road that could take him home. Now he stopped to rest. He put the fawn down. It bleated and looked at Jody. Jody was charmed. I will carry you after I get my breath, he said. His father had told him that a fawn would follow if it had first been carried. So he started slowly. The fawn didn't move, so he came back to pick him. He went ahead, carrying the fawn in his arms. He could not go very far. He was too tired. This time, however, the fawn followed him as he walked on. He allowed it to walk a little. Then he picked it up again. He reached at the gate of his home carrying the fawn. Jody carries fawn to his father. At the gate, Jody had an idea. He would walk into his father's room with the fawn after him. But at the steps, the fawn would not come up. So Jody reached his father's bed with the fawn on him. Jody showed his father the fawn. The father was glad that Jody had found what he wanted. Last one, Jody feeds the fawn. Jody offered the milk to the fawn. The milk was in the gourd. The fawn could not drink it. Then Jody dipped his fingers in the milk and thrust them in the fawn's soft mouth. The fawn drank the milk greedily. Then he lowered his fingers into the gourd. The fawn drank from the gourd now. Now I am going to read and explain the chapter. I am going to explain while I am reading right on the screen. So listen to it carefully. Let's start. In this story, Jody's father has been bitten by a rattlesnake. Rattlesnake is a kind of poisonous snake. He quickly kills a doe. Doe means female deer, and uses its heart and liver to draw out the poison. Draw out, remove. Jody wonders what will happen to the little fawn left without a mother. Fawn, deer's baby. In this story, Jody's father has been bitten by a rattlesnake. He quickly kills a doe and uses its heart and liver to draw out the poison. Jody wonders what will happen to the little fawn left without a mother. So, that Jody's father, that is Mr. Penny Baxter, was bitten by a snake. And to remove the poison from his body, he used the heart and liver of a doe, whom they killed in jungle. They came back home. Part 1. Jody allowed his thoughts to drift back to the fawn. Drift back to means go back to. He could not keep it out of his mind. He had held it in his dreams in his arms. He slipped from the table and went to his father's bedside. Penny lay at rest. Lay at rest means resting. His eyes were open and clear, but the pupils were still dark and dilated. Dilated means enlarged. Jody said, "How are you feeling, Pa?" "Just fine, son. Old Death has gone thieving elsewhere." "But wasn't it a close shave?" "A close shave means a narrow escape." "I agree," Penny said. "I am proud of you, boy. The way you kept your head and did what was needed." Kept your head means stayed calm in a difficult situation. Jody allowed his thoughts to drift back to the fawn. He could not keep it out of his mind. He had held it in his dreams in his arms. He slipped from the table and went to his father's bedside. Penny lay at rest. His eyes were open and clear, but the pupils were still dark and dilated. Jody said, "How are you feeling, Pa?" "Just fine, son. Old Death has gone thieving elsewhere." "But wasn't it a close shave?" "I agree," Penny said. "I am proud of you, boy. The way you kept your head and did what was needed." So here, Jody could not help but think about the fawn again and again, no matter how much he tried not to. He held him in his arms in his dreams. He finally got up from the table to go to his father's bedside, where his father, Penny, was resting. His eyes were open and seemed clear, but the pupils were still dark and enlarged. Jody asked his father how he was feeling. His father replied that he felt just fine. He further added that it was a narrow escape from death, which seems to have gone stealing elsewhere. Jody agreed. Penny expressed how proud he was of Jody for how he did not lose his cool and did what was necessary while staying calm. Pa, yes, son. Pa, do you recollect the doe and the fawn? So, recollect means remember. I can never forget them. The poor doe saved me, that's certain. Pa, the fawn may be out there yet. It might be hungry and very scared. I suppose so. Pa, I am a big boy now and don't need to drink milk. Why don't I go and see if I can find the fawn and bring it here and raise it? In this paragraph, Jody then asked his father if he still remembered the doe and the fawn, to which Penny replied that he can never forget about the poor doe that saved his life. Jody expressed his concern regarding the fawn, who might still be out there, hungry and frightened as he was separated from his mother. His father agreed. Jody further adds that he can take care of him and he does not need to drink milk as he is a grown up boy now. He asked his father if he could go and look out for the fawn. His father asked if Jody wanted to bring the fawn at their place, to which Jody agreed and added that he wanted to raise it too. Penny lay quiet, staring at the ceiling, looking continuously. Boy, you have got me hemmed in. Hemmed in, caught in a situation where one can't say no. It won't take much to rise it, Pa. It will soon start eating leaves and acorns. Acorns, small brown nuts. You're smarter than boys of your age. We took its mother, and it wasn't to blame. Surely it seems ungrateful. Ungrateful means unthankful. To leave it to starve. Son, I can't say no to you. I never thought I would live to see another day. So, as his father looked at the ceiling, he expressed how Jody has put him in a situation where he is unable to say no. And Jody tried to convince him further by pointing out that it would not require a lot of efforts to raise it and it will soon grow up to eat leaves and acorns. Then Penny added how Jody was brighter than the boys of his age. Jody mentioned that it was them who took its mother and now it will suffer because of them, even though it is not to be blamed. So his father expressed how ungrateful it would be to let him starve. Penny could not say no to Jody as he had lost all hope of living to see another day. Can I ride back with Millville and see if I can find it? Tell your mom I said you can go. He sidled back to the table and sat down. Sidled back means walked back quietly, trying not to be noticed. Okay, sidled back means walked back quietly, trying not to be noticed. So he sidled back to the table and sat down. His mother was pouring coffee for everyone. He said, Ma, Pa says I can go bring back the fawn. She held the coffee pot in mid-air. What fawn? The fawn belonging to the doe we killed. We used the doe's liver to draw out the poison and save Pa. She gasped. Well, for pity's sake, Pa says it would be ungrateful to leave it to starve. Starve means hungry. Dr. Wilson said, That's right, madam. Nothing in the world comes quite free. The boy's right and his dad's right. So Jody asked his father if he could ride back with Millville to try and find the fawn. His father agreed and told Jody to convey to his mom that he has given him the required permission. Now Jody went back to the table in a manner to avoid getting noticed. He told his mother while she poured coffee for everyone that his father has given him permission to bring the fawn. On hearing this, she paused and held the coffee pot in the air and asked which fawn is he talking about. Jody informs her that he intends on bringing the fawn that belonged to the doe they killed to save his father's life. And he further explained that they used doe's liver to extract poison to save his father. She heaved a sigh as she said that he can bring him home out of pure compassion. So Jody told her that his father thinks it would be ungrateful and unappreciative of them to let the fawn starve. Dr. Wilson kept his view forward by agreeing with what Jody and his father said. He thought both of them were right. He further added that there is nothing you can get from the world for free. Millville said, He can ride back with me. I will help him find it. She set down the pot helplessly. Well, if you will give it your milk, we have got nothing else to feed it. Millville said, Come on, boy, we have got to get riding. Ma Baxter, means Jody's mother, asked anxiously, You will not be gone long. Jody said, I will be back before dinner for sure. Millville mounted. Mounted means sat on. Millville mounted his horse and pulled Jody up behind him. He said to Millville, Do you think the fawn's still there? Will you help me find him? We will find him if he is alive. How you know it's a he? Millville volunteered to give Jody a ride and help him find the fawn. On hearing all this, Jody's mother felt helpless as she sat down, even though she was not in favor of it. She knew they were right and thus agreed if Jody would give the fawn his share of milk as they had nothing else to feed it. As soon as his mother agreed, Millville asked Jody to come along and said that they needed to go. Jody's mother Baxter quite uneasily asked for reassurance that he will not be gone for long. Jody replied that he would be back before dinner. Millville climbed his horse and helped Jody sit behind him. Jody asked Millville if he thinks the fawn would still be there and if he will help Jody in finding him. Millville assured him that they would find the fawn if it was alive. However, he asked Jody how he knew it was a male. The spots were all in a line on a doe fawn. Pa says the spots are every which way. Doe fawn means female fawn. Every which way in different directions. Part 2. Jody gave himself over to thoughts of the fawn. Gave himself over to thoughts. started thinking. They passed the abandoned clearing, abandoned, lonely. He said, "Cut to the North Millville. It was up here that Pa got bitten by the snake and killed the doe, and I saw the fawn." Suddenly, Jody was unwilling to have Millville with him, unwilling, not wanting to. If the fawn was dead or could not be found, he could not have his disappointment seen. And if the fawn was there, the meeting would be so lovely and so secret that he could not endure to share it. Endure, live. So Jody told Millville that he is sure because his spots were all in a line. His father had told him that a doe fawn or a female deer has spots in different directions. Part 2. Here Jody engaged himself in thinking about the fawn. They crossed a deserted piece of land in the forest. Jody gave directions as he told Millville to turn towards the north where Penny got bitten by a snake. He had killed the doe and seen the fawn there only. All of a sudden, Jody became unwilling to be with Millville. He wondered if the fawn was dead or could not be found. He did not want Millville to see his disappointment. On the other hand, if he found the fawn, the union would be so lovely and personal that he could not bring himself to share it. He said, "It's not far now, but the scrub is very thick." Scrub means a small bush. For a horse, I can make it on foot. On foot, walking. But I'm afraid to leave you, boy. Suppose you got lost or got bitten by this snake too? I will take care. It might take me a long time to find the fawn. If he's wandered means travelled aimlessly. Leave me off right here. All right, but you take it easy now. You know north here and east. There and there. The tall pine makes a bearing. Makes a bearing means acts as a compass and helps to identify directions. So long. So long means bye. So long, Millville. I'm obliged. Obliged means thankful. He waited for the sound of the hoofs to end. Hoofs means horses' feet. Then cut to the right. The scrub was still. Only his own crackling of twigs sounded across this silence. Twigs means sticks of plants. He wondered for an instant if he had mistaken his direction. So Jody told Millville that the point where he saw the fawn is not very far now. Jody suggested that he would go on by foot as the scrubs ahead are very thick for a horse. Millville was afraid to leave Jody alone, as what would happen if he got lost or bitten by a snake too. So Jody assures him that he will handle it and also that it might take a while for him to find the fawn in case he is wandered further. He told Millville to leave him nearby. Millville follows his direction and advises him to take it easy. He asks Jody if he is aware where the north and east was. Jody told him by pointing out the directions that he knows and that the tall pine acts as a compass that helps in identifying directions. Millville remarks that the pine is so long too, which Jody agrees and expresses his gratefulness. Jody waited for the sound of hoofs to end and let the horse go a bit far and then take a right. The scrub that was in front of him stood still. Only the sound of a few twigs could be heard in the silence. Jody doubted for a second if he had mistaken his direction. Then a buzzard rose in front of him and flapped into the air. Buzzard means a large bird like the vulture that eats the flesh of dead animals. He came into the clearing under the oaks. Clearing means an open area. Oak, a type of large tree. Buzzards sat in a circle around the carcass of the doe. Carcass means a dead body. They turned their heads on their long scrawny necks, scrawny, thin, and hissed at him. Hissed means sound made by buzzard. He threw his bow at them and they flew into an adjacent tree. Bough means branch of a tree, adjacent, nearby. The sand showed large cat prints, but the big cats killed fresh, and they had left the door to the carrion birds. Flesh eating, carrion birds, flesh eating. So then a buzzard rose in front of him and flapped into the air. He came into the clearing under the oaks. Buzzards sat in a circle around the carcass of the doe. They turned their heads on their long, scrawny necks and hissed at him. He threw his bow at them and they flew into an adjacent tree. The sand showed large cat prints, but the big cats killed fresh, and they had left the door to the carrion birds. A large boat, like a vulture, appeared in front of him and fluttered into the air. He came to the abandoned clearing from under the oaks. They sat in a circle around the door that lay dead. They looked at him with their heads that laid on their long necks and hissed at him. Jody threw his bow at them and they flew into a nearby tree. The sand showed marks of large cat footprints who had killed it recently and had left the door for the carrion birds. He parted the grass at the place where he had seen the fawn. Parted, moved, or pushed aside. The fawn was not there. He circled the clearing. There was no sound, no sign. The buzzards clacked their wings, impatient to return to their business. He returned to the spot where the fawn had emerged and dropped on all fours. Studying the sand for the small hoof prints, the night's rain had washed away all tracks except those of cat and buzzards. So Jody separated the grass from the place where he saw the fawn the previous day. He could not believe it had just been a day. The fawn was not at that place. Jody searched the abandoned land, but there was no sign and sound of one. On the other hand, the buzzards made sound with their wings out of desperation to resume what they were doing. Jody began looking at the place where the fawn had appeared from and began reading the small hoof prints in the sand. But the rain from last night had washed away all tracks except for cats and buzzards. Part 3. Movement directly in front of him startled him so that he tumbled backward. Startled means surprised. Tumbled, fell. The fawn lifted its face to his. It turned its head with a wide, wondering motion and shook him through with the stare of its liquid eyes. It was quivering, means shaking slightly. It made no effort to rise or run. Jody could not trust himself to move. He whispered, "It's me." The fawn lifted its nose, scenting. Scenting means smelling. Scenting him. He reached out one hand and laid it on the soft neck. The touch made him delirious, extremely excited. He moved forward on all fours until he was close beside it. He put his arms around its body. A light convulsion passed over it, but it did not stir. Convulsion, shiver. Stir means move. So Jody was shocked after having experienced some movement in front of him, and he fell backwards. It was the fawn. The fawn lifted his face with a wide and wondering motion to see Jody and stared at him with his liquid eyes. That it left Jody shook. The fawn was shaking with a slight rapid motion. The fawn sat still and made no effort to run. On the other hand, Jody could not move too, but he whispered lightly, "It's me." The fawn sniffled and smelled him. Jody reached out with his hand and laid it on his soft neck. His touch made the fawn excited, and he moved forward in an attempt to be close to Jody. Jody put his arms around the fawn, which made the fawn shiver slightly. But he did not stir, which means he was not frightened, but comforted. He stroked its sides as gently as though the fawn were a china deer. A china deer, a clay deer that is easily broken, and he might break it. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean. Sleek means smooth and shiny, and had a sweet scent of grass. He rose slowly and lifted the fawn from the ground. Its legs hung limply without support. They were surprisingly long, and he had to hoist the fawn as high as possible under his arm. Hoist, pull up higher. So he stroked its sides as gently as though the fawn were a china deer, and he might break it. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean, and had a sweet scent of grass. He rose slowly and lifted the fawn from the ground. Its legs hung limply. They were surprisingly long, and he had to hoist the fawn as high as possible under his arm. Jody caressed the sides of his body so gently as if it were as fragile as a china deer. The fawn was soft, sleek, and clean, and even possessed a pleasant scent of grass. Jody lifted the fawn from the ground in a way that hung his limbs in the air. The fawn's legs were quite long, so Jody had to hold him as high as possible under his arm. He was afraid that it might kick and bleat at sight and smell of its mother. He skirted the clearing and pushed his way into the thicket. It was difficult to fight through with his burden. The fawn's legs caught in the bushes, and he could not lift his own with freedom. He tried to shield its face from prickling vines. Its head bobbed with its stride. His heart thumped with the marvel of his acceptance of him. He reached the trail and walked as fast as he could until he came to the intersection with the road home. He stopped to rest and set the fawn down on its dangling legs. It wavered on them. It looked at him and bleated. So skirted, avoided. Thicket, dense bushes. Shield, protect. Prickling vines means sensitive climbers. Bobbed, bounced. Stride, walked. Wavered, shivered. Intersection, joint. Bleated, made a sound. He said, enchanted, "I will carry you after I get my breath." He remembered his father saying that a fawn would follow if it had first been carried. He started away slowly. The fawn stayed after him. He came back to it and stroked it and walked away again. He took a few wobbling steps towards him and cried piteously. It was willing to follow him. It belonged to him. It was his own. He was light-headed with his joy. He wanted to fondle it, to run, and roam with it. To call to it to come to him, he dared not alarm it. He picked it up and carried it in front of him over his two arms. It seemed to him that he walked without effort. Enchanted, in happiness or happily, wobbling, shaky, piteously, with pity, light-headed, unable to think clearly, fondle, hug, roam, play, alarm, frighten. So Jody, filled with the delight as he was, told the fawn that he would carry it once he had taken a bit of rest. Jody also recalled that his father had told him that a fawn will follow you once you have carried it for a bit first. Jody started walking at a slow pace, and the fawn looked as he walked further. Jody came back again to caress it and went forward again. This time, the fawn took a few weak steps in Jody's direction as he cried. Although wobbling, Jody was overjoyed by the fact that it was willing to go with him, which made the fawn his own. He was so overjoyed that he could not even think properly and clearly. At that moment, Jody wanted to caress it with all his desire, play with it, and call it towards him, but he did not want to frighten it. Then he picked the fawn again in his arms and walked effortlessly. His arms began to ache, and he was forced to stop again. When he walked on, the fawn followed him at once. He allowed it to walk a little distance, then picked it up again. The distance home was nothing. He could have walked all day and into the night, carrying it and watching it follow. He was wet with sweat, but a light breeze blew through the June morning, cooling him. The sky was as clear as spring water in a blue china cup. He came to the clearing. It was fresh and green after the night's rain. He fumbled with the latch and was finally obliged to set down the fawn to manage it. Then he had an idea. He would walk into the house, into Penny's bedroom, with the fawn walking behind him. But at the steps, the fawn barked and refused to climb them. He picked it up and went to his father. Penny lay with closed eyes. So ache means pain. Bark was unwilling. Jody stopped unwillingly as his arms had started aching. The fawn followed him as he walked again. Jody would only allow the fawn to walk a few steps and then pick it up again. Home was almost near. Jody could have picked it up and watched it follow all day. But he was tired and sweating. A light breeze helped him dry his sweat on that June morning. The sky was so clear that it had been compared to spring water in a blue china cup. He reached the clearing at last, which was green and fresh after the showers last night. It was a bit difficult for him to open the latch of the house, but he could do it once he set the fawn down. At first, he thought of making the fawn follow directly into Penny's room and surprise him, but the fawn refused to climb the stairs. So Jody had to pick him up to his father's bedroom. His dad was resting with closed eyes. Penny turned his head. Jody stood beside him. The fawn clutched hard against him. It seemed to Penny that the boy's eyes were as bright as the fawn's. He said, "I'm glad you found him." Jody then went to the kitchen. The fawn wobbled after him. A pan of morning's milk stood in the kitchen safe. The cream had risen on it. He skimmed the cream into a jug. He poured milk into a small gourd. He held it out to the fawn. It buttered it suddenly, smelling the milk. He saved it precariously from spilling over the floor. It could make nothing of the milk in the gourd. So clutched means held. Buttered means pushed. Precariously, dangerously. Skimmed means removed. So Jody woke his father up and stood beside as Penny turned his head towards him. The fawn grasped him firmly. Penny could see Jody's eyes as bright and glowing as the fawn's. Penny expressed his happiness over Jody having been able to find the fawn. Then Jody went straight to the kitchen after that, and the fawn followed him with his weak steps. In the kitchen, a pan filled with morning's milk was kept reserved, but cream had formed on it. He skimmed the cream and put it into a jug while he poured the milk in a utensil made of small gourd. The fawn sniffed the milk as Jody saved the milk from being spilled. The fawn could not drink the milk out of the gourd. He dipped his fingers in the milk and thrust them into the fawn's soft, wet mouth. It sucked greedily. When he withdrew them, it bleated frantically and buttered him. He dipped his fingers again and saw the fawn sucked. He lowered them slowly into the milk. The fawn blew and sucked and snorted. It stamped its small hoofs impatiently. As long as he held his fingers below the level of the milk, the fawn was content. It closed its eyes dreamily. It was ecstasy to feel its tongue against his hand. Its small tail flicked back and forth. The last of the milk vanished in a swell of foam and gurgling. So frantically, crazily, snorted, made a sound of breath through its nose. Ecstasy, happiness. So Jody dipped his fingers in the milk and put them in its soft, wet mouth, instantly which the fawn sucked greedily. He was hungry, which is why when Jody took his fingers out of its mouth, it cried and hit him with his head. The next time Jody put his fingers in the fawn's mouth, he gently lowered it so as to bring it near the utensil. The fawn became impatient, blew the milk, and he sucked it and made sounds. The fawn was calm till Jody kept his fingers inside the milk and he drank with eyes closed in satisfaction. Jody felt overwhelmed on feeling its tongue against his hand as his small tail moved back and forth. The milk disappeared quickly, forming foam, which was marked by a bubbling sound. That's all the story. This is Jody's fawn. I hope that you enjoyed the story and also learned more than 50 words and its meaning. So keep practicing those words in your daily life. Classwork will be sent to you. Write it neatly and without spelling error. So children, believe in God. Don't believe these kinds of superstitious beliefs. Always be kind to animals.